I have just gone to have breakfast and realised I am completely out of the quick oats that I make up. I make those out of the bulk whole rolled oats that we buy. And you've probably seen that in some of our bulk purchasing shares in the past. But yeah, I really simply take these and break them up into smaller pieces so that we can put them in the microwave, and they cook up really, really quick as a quick oat that way. So given I need to do a new batch, I thought this is the perfect opportunity for one of our really quick how-to style shares on how we turn whole rolled oats into a quick oat for the microwave. Now, when it comes to doing quick oats, there is quite a few different ways about that you can do it. The way that we do it is a super simple one, where it is just 100% the oats. Some brands you buy are 100% oats, but there are some that have lots of other bits and bobs in there as well. Sometimes it's additives for flavour, and there can be some that are quite natural. But there is also brands on the market that have things like, glucose and a lot of sugar and milk powders and stuff in there as well. So this could be a way that you can do one where you know exactly what's in it if you've got any of those dietary concerns where, maybe you're allergic to milk or something like that as well. But for us, we purely do this one for convenience purposes. So this is the oats that we're starting with, and as you can see, it's just a whole rolled oat. You can cook that into porridge perfectly fine, but I tend to find that if I'm having to cook it from this stage, it takes a lot longer, and you still even then end up with some bigger bits in it. And I can be a little bit funny with textures sometimes. I like a really beautiful smooth porridge, so turning it into the quick oat like this will turn it into something that I can cook really quick, but it also means it's something that I can get a beautiful smooth texture on. Equipment wise, all I need is a blender, and I'm not using anything special. I do get asked a bit, what is the blender that I'm using? This one here is a KitchenAid. I've only had it for a couple of years, and I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of this one. In fact, if you look at the handle here, it's broken. Yeah, it hasn't lasted as long as I would like. So I'm actually on the hunt for a good new blender, but for this job, that blender will be perfectly fine. You don't need anything particularly fancy. So all I'm going to do is just scoop in some of our oats. Now, in doing this, I'm not going to put too much in, and there's a reason for that. I find if I put too much in there all at once and try and blend it all at once, what'll happen is you get this really fine bit at the bottom. It kind of almost turns into like an oat flour, and I'm not looking for that really, really fine texture. What I want to do is just break this down into smaller pieces. And that there is pretty much all you want to do. So I'll show you what the texture looks like in there now. Now with my blender, there is some bigger bits and some smaller bits. So you can see there's still some bits of the oats in there. There's the broken down finer bits as well, but that cooks up an awful lot quicker than when you're cooking those whole oats. Container wise, I just tend to keep it in something that's not going to let in a lot of moisture or anything like that. This one here, easy pours. And of course, put it in a jar if you don't like plastic, just whatever you use for your cereal. And now to keep this one of our short how-to videos, I'm just going to keep on doing this until I fill this up, and then I'm going to show you how I cook up a portion, because as I said, I actually still need to have some brekkie this morning. So that there is the final texture, pretty much what I go for, but of course you could go a little bit finer or a little bit bigger, just depending on how you like it. But yeah, I find that cooks up pretty well, that sort of texture there for me. Now, don't get too fussy about the texture when you do this. You probably notice as I'm backing up a bit here, there's lots of different layers in this, and that's because even with this lot, I'm not consistent, and I never am when I do this, but yeah, it's perfectly fine. In fact, what I normally do is I just pop the lid on this at the end, give it a bit of a shake up so it's a bit more uniform, and yeah, that's what I'll use for making my breakfasts now. I'm going to cook up a batch, so let me show you what it is like when we do cook this up now. When it comes to cooking this up, I do tend to do it a little bit by feel. And I just pour an amount in of this and also an amount of milk. So what I might do is actually bring you in a little closer so you can kind of see the ratio that I go for. I know it's usually easier if I've actually got some ratios for you on this, but yeah, I don't. It's just practically how I do it when I have breakfast. I normally put in an amount about that much. In fact, how about let's measure it today. So if that's about the amount I'm going for, put that in there. So for a serve for me, oh, is it half? If I'm squishing it down, it's probably just about half a cup. And let's work out the milk. What I might do is pour it in here first. That's half a cup of milk. Would I normally add more? Yeah, probably a little bit more than that. So maybe let's try another quarter. Yeah, that looks about what I would normally do. So that was probably just a smidge over a half a cup of oats to 3/4 of a cup of milk. And now we pop it in the microwave. But again, of course, you could do this on the stovetop. And if you do it that way, it may be that your ratios are going to be a little bit different. But this is how I do it for a really quick breakfast. Time-wise, I normally go for about 2 minutes. And then I give it a bit of a check. Now, again, because I'm not always exact with those ratios, I don't always measure it. In fact, I've never measured it like we just did together. Sometimes there's a little bit more, sometimes there's a little bit less, and therefore sometimes I do need to adjust the time a bit. So yeah, we will start with the 2 minutes for this one, but yeah, I'll check it, make sure the texture's right, and if we need a little bit more, we'll go a little bit longer. All right, let's have a look how that went. Perfect. That is exactly how I like it. I don't end up adding any additional milk or anything like that the way that I have it. But what I do like to do is add a bit of banana. And again, because I'm normally doing this as a quick breakfast, I don't get all fancy in the way that I chop up the banana. Normally I just peel it and literally just pop slices straight on top. And I do like a lot of banana. That's where the sweetness comes from. If you like it sweeter, of course you can add sugar. Honey is actually really beautiful as well. When I don't have bananas and I want to sweeten it up a little bit, often I'll add a little bit of honey in. But when I've got a whole banana like I have today, that is perfect for my breakfast. That's breakfast sorted for today, but it's also breakfast sorted for a little while as well. I'll just pop that in the cupboard. And yeah, that's pretty much how we do our quick oats. Hopefully you enjoyed following along, and hopefully this gives you the confidence to give it a go too, if this is something you might like to try yourself. As always, thanks a bunch for joining, and catch you later.